secret that the WNBA referees need to be investigated immediately. Guys, for this one here,
the WNBA is currently embroiled in a scandal that's shaking fans to their core. And incredibly, the league is dragging Caitlin Clark into the mess. Word is circulating that the league isn't just investigating its referees for potential corruption, but is somehow implicating Clark herself. This is happening to the very player who has been subjected to relentless physical play all season without consistent calls. The question we need to ask is, how did we get from protecting star players to blaming them? Because what's unfolding is a disaster so outlandish it's almost unbelievable. The league, which has largely ignored months of blatant foul play, questionable officiating, and undeniable bias, is now launching an investigation, yet somehow Caitlin Clark's name is being mentioned. You simply cannot make this stuff up.
right here, my friends, is a breakdown. It says WNBA referees officiate professional women's basketball games and are selected through a process that starts at the high school level. We're going to skip college because the college referees, but it started at the high school level, bro. WNBA officiating is overseen by Monty McCutcheon as head of officiating and Sue Bullock as head of performance and development. So those are the two people, Monty and Sue, that's over the WNBA referees. Now, with that being said, we got to talk about their money because I'm a type of guy, I like to follow the bag. Where is the bag? Now, the salaries can range from $30,000 to $60,000 annually, depending on experience, and pay per game can ranges from $425 to $1,000 per game.
According to various credible sources, the WNBA has initiated a formal internal review, citing inconsistencies in officiating integrity. It sounds incredibly professional on the surface, doesn't it? But here's the truly mind-boggling part. This review apparently includes player influence and behavioral impact. Now let's translate that bureaucratic jargon into something plain. What it means is they are attempting to ascertain if Caitlin Clark herself somehow contributed to the chaos. Yes, you heard that correctly. Instead of holding referees accountable for their egregious errors and allowing players to be manhandled like they're in a rugby match, the league is now hinting that its biggest star might be part of the problem. This is the epitome of WNBA logic.
You want the best, you want to beat the best, you got to be the best, baby. And I'm going to be the best when I break down the data because this is a bunch of BS, man. It said WNBA data. Data doesn't show link between injuries and missed calls. So this article was released at the conclusion of the season, man, the regular season. It says, as WNBA officials face renewed criticism from coaches and players pointed at the level of physicality throughout the season, league sources told ESPN that their data does not show any correlation between the RAS.
Let's take a step back and remember the context. For the entire season, fans have been vocal about biased officiating, missed calls on fouls, and what appears to be a deliberate targeting of players, particularly Caitlin Clark. Everyone with eyes could see it. Everyone watching was talking about it. But in true WNBA fashion, the league's response was to deny, deflect, and hope it would all just disappear. Now, with calls for a thorough investigation reaching a fever pitch, they're suddenly showing interest, but not in the way that fans anticipated or demanded. Instead of simply auditing the referees and their performance, the league is reportedly broadening the scope to include player conduct and its alleged impact. This is corporate speak for we're going to drag Caitlin into this to save face, and the fans are absolutely incandescent with rage, because let's be brutally honest, Caitlin Clark didn't create this mess. She inadvertently exposed it.
Income. That ain't a very good income. And I feel like when they see players like Caitlin, see players like Sophie, and all of the other big name players making massive, massive money, and everybody know they hate their guts. Well, not massive money like in a W sense, but more than them. They make more than them, bro. They make more than them. They might feel a type of way. How would you feel wake up going to work every day knowing that these ladies make more than me?
Every time she was fouled hard in the lane with no whistle blown, fans took notice. Every time she engaged in a stare down with an official after a call that defied all logic, social media erupted. Every time her name trended online, it wasn't because of some manufactured controversy, it was because people were finally witnessing, in real time, the challenges that players have been enduring for years. But now that the spotlight has become too intense to ignore, Commissioner Kathy Engelbert and her team are attempting to twist the narrative. Instead of acknowledging the fundamental breakdown in the refereeing system, they are attempting to reframe it as a player-influenced issue. It's clearly easier to question Caitlin Clark's composure than to admit that the officiating is frankly incompetent. Blame Caitlin.
Operation Committee found that accusations that officiating errors have led to more injuries were unfounded, league sources told ESPN.
And speaking of those referees, let's address their performance for a moment. The league consistently boasts about the professionalism of its officials. You know, the same officials who reportedly earn around $30,000 a year to make decisions that impact games worth millions of dollars. The same officials who treat missed calls like mere minor inconveniences. The same officials who officiate as if they are simply flipping a coin to determine the outcome of a play. And yet the WNBA expects fans to believe that these individuals are somehow above bias or error. Please, let's be realistic. When you pay your referees barely enough to scrape by in major metropolitan areas like New York or Chicago, you are actively inviting problems. That's not professional officiating, that's a secondary income stream. And when referees are underpaid, undertrained, and overworked, the likelihood of them making poor decisions, or worse, deliberately manipulating games out of frustration or favoritism, increases exponentially. But credit where it's due. It's truly impressive how far the league will go to avoid genuine accountability. Fans have now officially coined this situation Refgate, and they are demanding complete transparency. They want access to the data, the audio recordings, the official reports, everything. They want to know precisely how many bad calls were made, how many times players formally complained, and how often league officials deliberately ignored those complaints. Instead of providing this much-needed clarity, what has the WNBA done? They've leaked the information that Caitlin Clark might be involved in the investigation. This is the definitive move of a desperate commissioner. It's no secret that Cathy Engelbert has been under immense pressure for months. The players lack faith in her leadership. The owners are reportedly losing confidence, and the fans boo her every single time she appears to present a trophy. Now, with the referee scandal exploding, she's resorting to what every failing leader does, throwing someone else under the bus. And who better to scapegoat than the league's most prominent and recognizable star? But this strategy is already backfiring spectacularly. The fans are not buying it. Social media is ablaze with outrage, with people rightfully calling out the league's profound hypocrisy. One post perfectly encapsulated the sentiment. So the refs can ruin games, cause injuries, and ignore fouls, but Caitlin Clark is the problem? Exactly. This is the same league that allowed her to be repeatedly body-checked as if she were playing in a hockey game, only to later label her as too emotional for reacting to such blatant aggression. It's the same league that downplayed the clear targeting she faced, claiming she wasn't being treated any differently. And now all of a sudden they're investigating her for influencing games. You couldn't write a more absurd comedy. This entire circus began after new data surfaced from ESPN and league sources, claiming there is no link between officiating errors and player injuries. That's right. After an entire season marred by torn ligaments, concussions, and a litany of bruised ribs, they want us to believe that the referees played no role in these physical setbacks. Meanwhile, fans can readily pull up highlight reels showcasing precisely how bad officiating directly led to injuries. But apparently Cathy Engelbert and her data analytics team missed those clips, leading the league to decide it needed to audit the referees. Here's where things get particularly shady. The process they've described for this audit is frankly laughable. They claim that every single referee undergoes an audit mid-season, and again at the end of the year, and that only a consistent pattern of mistakes triggers any form of consequence. This implies that one bad call is a minor issue, 10 bad calls might warrant a brief conversation, and 20 bad calls? Congratulations, you're still officiating in the playoffs. It's a system fundamentally designed to fail, and Caitlin Clark has, unfortunately, been the most visible symbol of that systemic failure throughout the entire year. So when the public outcry reached an unbearable boiling point, the WNBA's response was to spin the narrative. Now the investigation magically includes players like Caitlin, as if she's somehow orchestrating a grand conspiracy against the officials. This is precisely what happens when leadership prioritizes optics over actual justice. You would think that a league desperately seeking credibility would prioritize protecting its most valuable assets, its stars, rather than turning them into scapegoats. Even players who typically remain silent are reportedly furious. One insider revealed that locker rooms across the league are incredibly heated, with veteran players labeling the situation as both disrespectful and tone-deaf. Because everyone involved understands. If the league is willing to drag Caitlin Clark into an investigation of this nature, then absolutely no player is truly safe. Meanwhile, the referees are seemingly walking away unscathed. No suspensions, no public accountability, just a few perfunctory meetings about best practices and officiating improvement plans, whatever that actually entails. And let's not forget, this isn't the first time fans have loudly demanded oversight. Last season, similar complaints emerged regarding inconsistent officiating and perceived bias. At that time, the league casually dismissed them. Now, it's happening again, only amplified, because this time the star player being unfairly targeted possesses a global fan base. And those fans are far from quiet. They are tagging major media outlets, penning open letters, and demanding investigations from external bodies. Some are even calling for federal oversight. Yes, that's the level of seriousness people are attaching to this issue. Fans are treating the WNBA's current predicament like Wall Street after a major market crash. They want audits, they want receipts, and they demand accountability. And to be fair, their demands are entirely justified. The league's credibility is currently in tatters. You cannot have your most popular player being physically assaulted on a weekly basis, while your referees act as if it's simply part of the game, and then pretend that there is no issue. If this investigation doesn't result in significant, meaningful changes, the backlash is poised to become even more severe. Sponsors are already paying close attention. Several have quietly expressed their concerns regarding the league's handling of its public image. Because when words like corruption and investigation start appearing in close proximity to your brand, that is unequivocally bad for business. And here's where things get even more surreal. Some insiders are suggesting that this investigation could potentially uncover far more than just simple referee bias. There are whispers circulating about leaked internal communications, allegations of favoritism originating from the league office, and even suspicions of potential tampering in how certain officials are assigned to specific games. If any of these allegations prove to be true, this situation could rapidly escalate into something far larger and more unmanageable than the WNBA is equipped to handle. But hey, perhaps Cathy Engelbert can offer a reassuring explanation for all of this in another one of her seemingly carefree interviews. Because nothing screams effective leadership quite like smiling serenely while your entire league is seemingly self-destructing. Let's maintain honesty here. This entire situation reeks of sheer panic. The WNBA is desperately trying to project an image of control when it's patently obvious to everyone that it's been pure chaos since the season commenced. And now the league is treating Caitlin Clark as if she's somehow involved in the crime scene, rather than being the primary victim. Fans are absolutely relentless in their discussion of this matter. Every forum, every sports podcast, every trending post on X is currently criticizing the league for transforming the very individual who has revitalized their ratings into a prime suspect. One fan's poignant comment perfectly captured the prevailing sentiment. So the woman who saved the WNBA is the same one they're investigating? Got it. That particular comment has been reshared thousands upon thousands of times because it articulates precisely what everyone is thinking. The most bewildering aspect of this whole ordeal is how utterly predictable it has become. The WNBA had a golden opportunity to address this situation with integrity and professionalism. They could have conducted a transparent investigation, held the referees genuinely accountable, and demonstrated to their fans that fairness and integrity are paramount. Instead, they opted for their standard playbook: confusion, deflection, and an unwavering commitment to protecting the brand. And in doing so, they have only managed to tarnish that brand further. Let's delve into the supposed internal review. Sources indicate that Cathy Engelbert has assembled a committee tasked with evaluating officiating consistency. It sounds rather impressive, doesn't it? That is, until you discover who actually comprises this committee. It appears to be populated by many of the same league insiders who were responsible for approving those very referees in the first place. Essentially, the referees are being investigated by the same individuals who hired them. This is akin to allowing a student to grade their own exam. And now that Caitlin Clark's name has been thrown into the mix, this so-called review has devolved into an absolute circus. Critics are already labeling it as a cover-up in the making. Some reports even suggest that the league is strategically leveraging Caitlin's immense popularity to shield itself, hoping that the ensuing controversy will morph into sensationalized drama content rather than an actual damaging scandal. Because after all, controversy equals clicks, right? Wrong. The fans are no longer willing to play that game. They have witnessed this narrative unfold too many times before. First, the league consistently ignores player complaints. Then, when the situation inevitably escalates, they call for patience while subtly shifting blame onto someone else. Finally, they announce changes that ultimately amount to little more than another press release that fails to address any substantive issues. It's a cyclical pattern of inaction and superficial solutions. However, this time, the public backlash feels profoundly different. Even casual sports enthusiasts, individuals who likely couldn't name more than 2 WNBA teams before this season, are now paying close attention. Because when a figure as prominent as Caitlin Clark becomes entangled in a supposed corruption probe, that transcends mere sports news. It becomes a national conversation. And the league's most significant challenge, the internet never forgets. Every single missed call, every compilation of her being knocked to the floor, every awkward post-game interview is meticulously archived online. There are literally hours upon hours of visual evidence demonstrating the appalling inconsistency of the officiating. You can pause any game at any moment and clearly see the absurdity unfolding. Yet inexplicably, the official league stance remains that there is no evidence of wrongdoing. This is precisely why the fans are so incensed. They feel as though the league is actively gaslighting them. You cannot present us with an entire season's worth of egregious bad calls, consequential injuries, and blatant bias, and then expect us to accept that it's all merely a series of unfortunate coincidences. That isn't data, that is profound delusion. Let's also consider the financial aspect, because ultimately, money is the connecting thread that ties everything together. Referees in the WNBA typically earn between $30,000 annually. If they're fortunate, perhaps the $1,000 per game. Meanwhile, players like Caitlin Clark, through endorsements and salary, are projected to earn millions. The financial disparity between those who enforce the rules and those who play under them is colossal. It's not difficult to imagine resentment brewing within the officiating ranks. Now, I am not making any accusations of game fixing, but when you have underpaid officials holding sway over the outcomes of multi-million-dollar matches, the inherent risk of corruption escalates dramatically. That is simply the reality of the situation, and the league is acutely aware of this. That's precisely why this investigation has even been initiated. However, instead of confronting the systemic issues head-on, they are conveniently diverting the spotlight onto Caitlin Clark. It's akin to blaming the fire alarm for the actual fire. Players across the league have also quietly expressed their profound frustration. Some articulate a deep-seated weariness of feeling as though the referees are dictating the outcomes of games rather than the players' performances on the court. Coaches are on edge, players are fed up, and now, the fans have effectively become citizen investigators themselves. One extensive online thread is meticulously tracking every referee who has officiated games involving Caitlin Clark, comparing their call patterns to matchups involving other players. The statistical discrepancies are, to put it mildly, not encouraging. Reports indicate that in games where Clark is playing, the foul discrepancies are nearly double the league average. Yet astonishingly, the WNBA continues to feign ignorance, insisting that this is all within the realm of normalcy. Normal? Absolutely nothing about this league has felt normal since Cathy Engelbert assumed leadership. Every significant controversy seems to trace its roots back to the same core leadership problem, an excess of pride and a profound lack of accountability. When players voice legitimate concerns about travel conditions, they are labeled as ungrateful. When fans express valid criticisms about officiating, they are dismissed as uninformed. And when Caitlin Clark dares to speak out, she is suddenly implicated as part of the problem. You simply could not script this scenario any worse. And while this internal turmoil continues to unfold, the league's credibility steadily erodes. Sponsors are growing increasingly apprehensive, journalists are digging deeper into the story, and fans are openly calling for Engelbert's resignation. Not so long ago, that was considered a fringe opinion. Now it's firmly entrenched in mainstream discourse. Even prominent sports talk show hosts are relentlessly dissecting and mocking the league for its tone-deaf and counterproductive response. One analyst eloquently summarized the prevailing sentiment. Instead of investigating Caitlin Clark, maybe investigate why half the fan base thinks your refs are corrupt. That particular statement went viral because it hit the absolute bullseye of truth. This isn't solely about Caitlin Clark. She is merely the lightning rod. The true underlying story is the profound structural breakdown that has plagued the WNBA. The referees are not trusted, the commissioner is not respected, and now even the players are being dragged into the league's internal scandals. This is not indicative of growth. It represents a slow-motion collapse. Meanwhile, organizations like the LPGA, the NCAA, and even the NBA are observing all of this unfold like a disastrous reality television program. Because if the WNBA continues on this path of self-destruction, it will inevitably cast a shadow over the efforts of everyone attempting to build and elevate women's sports. So the critical question remains, will the WNBA finally confront and rectify its pervasive referee crisis? Or will it continue to pretend that everything is perfectly fine, all while dragging Caitlin Clark through the mud? Because the fans have unequivocally made it clear, they are done being fooled. Share your thoughts and opinions in the comments section below. Please hit that like button if you are tired of this ongoing nonsense, and most importantly, don't forget to subscribe for more candid insights and truth bombs about the chaos that is currently shaking the foundations of women's sports.